You got to destroy your dogma. There's a lot of problems going on right now. And a lot of it is a distraction from the real root causes. I'm not going to go into all those different things today, but I want to talk real quick about your own personal responsibility for the things you say, the things you do, and the things you think, and how spreading dogma and bias and projection and bad ideas and shame and guilt and all these things that everyone's doing right now, like it's just okay to do, how that is contributing to the problem. It literally is contributing to the problem. It's making things worse. And so I got to put a trigger warning out there. If you listen to something here that challenge your belief system, you don't necessarily agree with whatever, and you try to make broad statements about what's going on or me or my ideas or anything like that, you're part of the problem. You are the problem. That is the very thing that is at the root of tribalism and racism. It's dogma. And you can have dogma about things being bad and it being unfair and inequality, whatever. But what it does is it blinds you to actual solutions, and it blinds you to a tempered approach, a tolerant approach, and a gray approach, because everything in life is actually in the middle somewhere. You have each extreme, you have polarization, and you have what's going to work and actually make change for the better. It's somewhere in the middle. And what we're seeing right now is just people being pushed to extremes. It's like, if you don't say something, damn you. If you do say something, damn you, because it's not right or it's this or that. This is the BS that I can't stand. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to enlighten, make aware, whatever, people of their own dogma, their own bad ideas, their own bias. That's the thing that we should be addressing right now. And it's on both freaking sides. It comes from everybody. This is a human thing. So the trigger warning here is, if you hear something in this short video that irks you or you think is unfair or whatever, take that as a sign that you should maybe sit with that and try to analyze it, understand it, and then try this exercise, which nobody does, right? Nobody does this. Try to argue for the thing that you don't agree with as a thought exercise to maybe better understand your position. Yeah, but who does that, right? It's so hard. For most people, that would be so psychologically painful that they just literally give up in a second. And that's the exact problem. It's the fact that people are so scared and challenging their beliefs is so painful to the ego that they just basically get polarized, go to one side, everyone else is evil, I'm good, I'm right, everyone else is wrong. That's not how you create equality. That's not how you promote tolerance and actually change. You make it worse. I can't stand the hypocrisy of a lot of things. And I won't even go into the virus stuff. I mean, one second, if you don't wear a mask and you go outside and you hug your friends, you're killing old people. And the next second, as long as it's for Black lives and you're out protesting, you can go mingle with thousands of people. If people can't see what the media has done and how they flip-flop with that and how much of a freaking joke that is, it should be a calling to just dismantle and ignore everything the media says at this point. They have no credibility whatsoever. Yet people are still being manipulated by the different psychological ploys that they use. It's infecting into social media. And now people are becoming one-person misinformation spewing, dogma spewing, projecting blame, victim spewing nonsense that is making all this worse. And what's interesting here is I'm going to avoid, I mean, I've said it once, right? The COVID thing was an example, but I'm not going to make it about race or black or white or anything. I'm going to talk about big ideas that apply to every human and how you, the individual, right? Because that's the only thing that changes is a bunch of people, a bunch of individuals change. There's no such thing as a group of humans that operates on its own. It's a bunch of individual humans that either join that group or don't based on their personal decisions. Now, like everything I'm saying here is just like basic 101 reality. And it's kind of telling that I have to have a trigger warning. I have to even really cover these topics or feel the need to want to, because so many people are just ignoring them, right? Like ignoring the basics. This is just the basics. These are the basics. Let's just talk about a few things I have here. The first thing is like, you got to destroy your dogma. Anytime you convince yourself that you're right and others are wrong, anytime you draw a line in the sand and you kind of step on this side and everyone else is on that side, you're the problem. You're the problem. You are the problem. I just want that kind of sink in. There's a lot of ways to destroy dogma, self-awareness, questioning yourself, challenging your own beliefs, not committing so quickly to opinions, not shaming people, projecting or trying to blame them or call them names or do things like that, especially not doing things like if they make a comment that you don't agree with, you call them racist. Like that is the problem. You are the problem. Everybody that does that is the problem. And the color of your skin has nothing to do with whether you're the problem or not. The color of your skin has nothing to do with what you say and do in your character. Again, 101, reality 101. It's crazy that this is even something that like people might want to be interested in and that I even feel the need to talk about it. Again, it's crazy. It's very telling of the problems in our world today that most people don't realize is the result of their devices and the big tech companies and the media that now manipulates everything we see, and the algorithms that build these self-reinforcing echo chambers that feed us nonsense that we want to believe. And so all we do is we have this big bundle of confirmation bias that just comes at us on a daily basis. And then we go and find people online to argue with and debate with. And then even when they have good points, research shows that even when somebody presents facts or good points or a logical argument, all it does is strengthen the dogma of your resolve. All it does is strengthen your bias. If somebody prevents you facts, the human mind is set up in a way to protect the ego for a lot of evolutionary reasons I won't go into. So that if you're presented with facts, most people end up believing what they believe more so and ignoring objective reality, facts, more so. This is ego protection. It's so that you could survive in a group. You had to think like your tribe members. You had to have an us versus them mentality, because if you didn't distrust strangers, you could potentially be killed. The wild was a hostile place. The number one threat to humans is humans. The number one threat to humans when we really started to overpopulate the world and when we kind of basically owned the food supply because no other species could compete was other humans. Humans win the award for most violent species in history. I mean, even with the dinosaurs, probably. I don't know really if we can go back that far to understand, but there's no other species in the animal kingdom today, no other species that slaughters members of its own species the way humans do. There might be one ant. There's like this warrior ant that will just like dominate other ants and other species, and they'll just like completely destroy different areas, right? Maybe aside from the one ant, and who knows if they beat us or not, we might actually win. We're the only species that destroys, murders, rapes, pillage, and just otherwise dehumanize members of our own species. No other species does it the way we do. If that is not a freaking wake-up call to the problems with us versus them, the problems with blame and projection and playing the victim and making your problems other people's problems and things like that, like if that's not a wake-up call, then what is? And what's going to change? Because it's going to start at the individual level. And that's why I feel it's my calling, my duty to kind of promote these ideas. First, understand why you have built-in tribalism, even built-in racism in some ways, how it kept our ancestors safe, how that even today, though, we live in a very tolerant society where very few people are actively racist and actively try to do things to thwart other people based on the color of their skin or religion or whatever. Those people exist. They always will exist. I believe they will always exist. But the 99% that are tolerant, that do want people to live happy, healthy lives and to be able to raise their children in a free country or whatever, why are those people all going at each other? That doesn't make any sense to me. And why are those people, the 99% that aren't doing things that actively help, that actively promote good ideas of fairness and equality, why are those people trying to be shamed and attacked and whatever? If not because of a lot of really bad ideas. A lot of really bad ideas, a lot of just anger trying to manifest in a way that feels good. It feels good to maybe riot and protest and anger and let it all out. We have all this aggression built up, and now I have my chance to share it with the world, to show the world why I'm matter or I'm important or whatever. I think it's safe to say that most of the looters and the violent protesters, they don't want change. They just want to release. So if you say something about you don't agree with looters or violence, somehow that means you're against equality or whatever. These are the false dichotomies and the really bad ideas, the bias, the dogma that is running rampant on social media right now. And that's a real problem. I think in the past week is kind of between COVID and now this. I didn't used to think this because I've always been very pro-internet. I think the internet's an amazing thing. It's going to bring equality to humanity. You know, when everyone gets connected, equal opportunity, anybody can basically rise themselves up and just learn anything, build any, generate income. It's amazing. It gives the world opportunity. I truly believe that. But I think right now that if we don't figure out how to get these algorithms under control, maybe some of these big tech monopolies under control, I think the internet is the biggest existential threat to our species right now. I think we're going to devolve into a potential race war, civil war, global war, World War III. I think the internet is going to be at the hands of that. Because what the internet does is it speeds up polarization. It speeds us versus them. It speeds up tribalism. It speeds up the worst parts of the human brain and the human psyche. We should not be fighting each other right now. We should be working together, listening, having objective conversations. The fact that I have to record this, just me to a camera and nobody can really respond right now. Like, it'd be hard to get somebody that might have conflicting ideas to what I'm saying right now to be able to have just an intelligent, rational conversation. I've even seen examples of this, like with Sam Harris and some other people, that their rational discussions about these kind of hot topic ideas being either removed from YouTube or censored or having content strikes because they're being called hate speech and things like that. And that's a whole nother topic that's been going on for a few years now. Let's get to kind of like, what can you do? Like, maybe you agree with some of these things, maybe you don't. Maybe at the very least, you want equality for all. There's also one concept that I want you to be aware of. It's known as the halo effect. And there's some other biases around this, like the likability bias or whatever. But it's this idea that when you really like somebody, you ignore their faults and you focus on their strengths. When you don't like somebody, it's the reverse. When you don't like somebody, nothing they can say or do, is of value to you. It's basically only their faults. This is, again, it's a polarization. It's a polarization, and it's fitting things into neat little boxes that serve your purposes and that make life easier for you to understand. Because the reality is there's a lot of information. It's very complex. And for most of us, if we want to understand all these ideas, we'd have to literally spend 8 hours a day doing the research and trying to actually understand them. If you want to really understand the data, look at the data. It's there. Find the real data, though. Not like what's cherry picked on a website, maybe. Not what somebody posts on social media. And that's how you spread information, fake news, etc. A couple things here. Let's just go to some of the basics. Negativity is a sickness. It's an addiction. It's not good for anybody. Negativity breeds negativity. Negativity bias comes naturally to our species for things I talked about earlier, evolutionary reasons. You have to fight negativity. Positivity is what's going to change the world, not negativity. Being optimistic, hopeful, being realistic, but not being negative. Because negative just breeds more of it. Negativity is just blaming people or talking about things like white privilege. Okay, if you think there's white privilege, then how do you solve it? Literally, how do you solve it? Do you write a law where it's illegal to have white privilege? And then what? We're in a communistic world, and then we have mass starvation and everyone dies off. And then, communism didn't work. Most of the time, socialism doesn't work. Maybe bits and pieces of either of those might work. But the free market capitalist society that the United States lives in is the best system thus far we've been able to figure out. And trust me, nobody wants to go down those other rabbit holes and try to test. Just look around the world. Look at history. I don't think any of you and your family and your kids or whatever needs to live through that. And again, I lost my train of thought. I know there's a lot here. I really need a really strict outline. Negativity, that's what it was. Blame is an addiction and a sickness. Blaming people think that it does something or might change something, but what they don't understand is it's self-serving. They're just doing it to feel good. It's just a release. It's just like looting or using violence to protest and then kind of hiding behind a movement and saying that's why you're doing it or whatever. That's BS. Complete and utter BS. If you're a criminal, you should go to jail, period. Victim mentality is a sickness and an addiction. You want other people, in a lot of cases, people that didn't even perpetuate these things against you, to answer for people that did perpetuate them against you. I cannot think of a more asinine thing than that. Again, this is like reality 101. When you do that, either blatantly or subconsciously, you're acting like a moron. It is stupid. It is not productive. You're hurting yourself more than anybody. Because you can yell and scream at people and blame them for things. And even if they were to maybe agree with you or feel bad or whatever, they'll quickly move on with their life. That's human nature for you. But you will continually dwell in that victim mindset. And you'll continually find other people to project and blame and basically latch your pain onto like a barnacle. That's why it's a sickness and addiction. Because if you want to change your situation, if you want to rise up out of being a victim, it takes personal responsibility. Personal responsibility takes an objective understanding that nobody owes you anything. And your life is your responsibility. Nobody's going to make you get out of bed. Nobody's going to make you pay your bills. Nobody's going to make you feed yourself or worry about your health or feed your family or anything. Nobody's going to do that. They're not. And the very people that tell you that it's not your fault and try to feed you entitlement programs or things like that, which again, I'm not very political. I don't know a lot about a lot of that, but I do know that a lot of those, I don't want to say the party, but a lot of the politicians that feed you how you should, get money and people should take care of you, whatever, they are part of the problem. Things are broken the way they are. Those things usually backfire. Programs like that usually backfire. If negativity is a sickness and addiction, if blame is a sickness and addiction, if victim mentality is a sickness and addiction, what's the answer here? Well, I've always been a fan of the Stoics, and there's a reason we still cite them today. In fact, there's a reason it's grown in popularity in the past 10 years, as a lot of these things have accelerated. It's because it's about personal responsibility, and it's about accepting things outside of your control. And too much of the brainwashing that goes on by the media and the fear-mongering and the victim and the negativity and the blame, this ignores this principle of life. It makes it about somebody else's problem. Like somebody else did this to you. Somebody else should atone or pay. And they might tell you they want to, Maybe they even were to give you money. But then what is that going to do? In the long run, is that going to make your life any better? Is that going to solve anything? No. For as long as you're a victim, as long as you're addicted to negativity and blame, you will find things and reasons why you're the victim, and you'll find people and things to blame, and you will find inequalities. It will happen forever because this is nature. This is humanity. We don't live in a utopia. Until we maybe get plugged into the matrix and we're forever in the singularity and AI takes over, there will not be utopia. So what that means is, because again, this is reality, this is first principles. You have to then understand these things, and then you have to go back to yourself, and you have to ask yourself, what can you do, and what do you want? Do these causes matter enough where you want to commit your life to it, and you want to really work on change, and you want to do community events, and maybe you want to do content, and you want to have discussions, you want to do things like that actually elicit change? That's great. You should do that. Find your calling. Find your passion. Do you want to feed your family? Are you struggling to do that? Then maybe you should focus there. That's the other problem. It's like you see people that are trying to blame other people, virtue signal, do all these things, all this fakeness, all this negativity and blame and whatever. They don't really even have their own life under control, even though there's so much opportunity to do that. This is the greatest time in humanity. The internet has created the greatest time in humanity to be safe, to raise a family, to live the life you want, and to really create any life. I mean, you can literally create any life you want. There's never been a greater time. So why is everybody trying to claim that the world is so racist, or the United States is so racist, or it's so unequal, or whatever? 20 years ago, for sure, worse off. 40, 50 years ago, for sure, way worse off. And keep going back, really bad. But today, it's the best it's ever been. And so I think the narrative is flawed. And a lot of very smart people that I've kind of listened to and followed have better ways of saying that. A lot of the narrative is completely flawed. And a lot of the narrative is perpetuated by the media that wants you to do a certain thing. For you, the individual, though, you have to rise above your dogma. There's certain things you should not do. You should not blame people or project people. And you should not make blatant statements about somebody's skin color. We're talking about tribalism and racism here. Isn't that like 101? You're supposed to not do that? You're supposed to talk about how all humans are equal? But now even the idea that when you say all lives are equal, that somehow is a negative thing. Oh my gosh, that is absurd. And so that's what I'm after. I'm after fighting that kind of dogma and those bad ideas. Why are you naked, boo-boo? Why are you naked? Naked. So, okay, he's born with zero prejudice or ideas about any of this. He wants to grab things and mess with them. And, people to him he looks at them at first, he's kind of cautious of any color, any race, whatever. And then he warms up to them and he's playing with them. We had friends come over, did the same thing. At first he was shy, and then he was just jumping all over Tay, for example, and Ben and whatever. He's going to grow up though with these screens. And if he's going to be fed these bad ideas and this dogma and all of this us versus them and these ideas about how maybe he should be ashamed, that he should be ashamed of his color or he should apologize for it. Can you think about how that's going to make it worse? It's going to further separate people. It's going to make people actually develop prejudice when they didn't even need it in the first place because people are prejudiced against him based on his skin color. And this idea that if you're white, you can't be, there's no discrimination or racist or whatever, or racism against you. That's just another flawed model. You can prove it by numbers. You can prove it by everything, right? And it shouldn't be that way. And so that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in killing that dogma and really just giving his generation a better chance, right?
Hop.
What do you want? Phone? No, but you can have this. This is a timer. Timer. Yeah, and I made the point yesterday that if you asked most people if they've lost somebody, if they've suffered, if they've had trauma, if you ask them, that universally you'll get yes. And so maybe that's one way we can share in our humanity is the fact that life is hard, we all suffer, and life's not fair. Mother Nature's cruel. Things happen. Good people die all the time, every day. It's like, yet we're talking about like the amount of melanin in our skin. I mean, come on. It's just completely missing the point, and it's actually perpetuating the problem. That's my point. It's perpetuating the problem.
Papa.
Okay, boo-boo. So let's go back with Mima. Camera, if you look right here. See? Camera. And if you're raising kids, just a quick tip, something that I always try to remember, that kids that grow up, that hear more words, generally have better results in life, are more intelligent. You got to talk to them. Explain complex topics. The more words they hear, like the more words, the more total words, the better it is for them for development. It's a timer, so I can see how long I'm ranting on the camera. So what we need is tolerance. We need to kill our own dogma. We need to kill our own bias. And we need to focus on first principles. When you get emotional and something kind of triggers you, makes you mad, whatever, that should be something you should sit with and avoid responding too quickly and try to think about it. Yet most people just immediately attack, immediately respond, and then ignore those feelings that welled up. There's a reason those feelings welled up, right? There's a reason there. You should unpack that. Maybe it's based on personal trauma. Maybe it's based on, but when you start making it about us versus them, or you try comparing your victimness to someone else's, that's when you lose, you fail. All right, boo-boo, let's go back with Mimo, okay? So ask yourself hard questions. Stop hurling judgments and accusations at other people. Individuals do things, groups do not. So it's always about the individual. So you might as well start working on yourself, right? That's how you're going to elicit change. And then focus on the things that actually matter, objective, first principles, and truth, rather than blanket statements based on whatever. And try to talk with people, understand their perspective. Don't be hostile. Don't turn it into us versus them. And we need to keep the dogma at bay. It's going to devolve humanity into some very dangerous, crazy things. It's got me kind of afraid for his generation. I just hope we don't devolve into World War III or Civil War or Revolutionary War or any of the crazy things that can happen that all of us forget. We forget history. History is very bloody. It's full of conflict. And those people gave their lives for a lot of the freedoms we take granted for today. So that's all I got for today. Welcome to talk about this if you have comments below or whatever. Hey, Colin here. Thanks for watching that video. I got a free PDF for you, The 7 Principles of Living Wild. Short and sweet, not long, not going to be a novel you have to read or anything. Just a simple reference of the things that make you a healthy human. So click on the button below, get that right now, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.